Welcome to the second mission, mission number 2, on Miles' path to redemption. They are slowly making their way out of the ruined city. They're slowly getting closer and closer to the wilderness, and you'll notice there's more trees and things like that. They come across a commotion. They're over there. They come across a commotion where their wizard in the top left corner near the house is having a dispute with the Pumpkin Gang, which is a local ne'er-do-well gang, and they have decided that they want to rob him for everything he's worth. And you'll notice he's made a nice little home for himself. He's got a garden going on inside a ruined building, and he's got some barricades around his home, and he's even got a storage crate. If you look through the window of that big building back there, he's got a pond for some sort of fresh water. And in such a dense, ruined city, it's pretty easy to hide, and he's hid long enough. So they've discovered exactly where he is, and they decide, hey, we want all your crap. Well, come to find out, he is a wizard, and we're going to have kind of an issue. He hears Miles and company approaching, and being that he's a fairly old man, he yells to them and says, please help me, I will give you treasures and riches, etc., if you please help me get rid of these people. So, at that juncture, Miles and his group of people, they all kind of talk amongst themselves for a moment, and Dunce just sits there drooling. And Lancer and Reich believe that they probably should actually help this old man. Maybe this is going to be easy merchandise for them, and they will come out the better for it. Miles, on the other hand, thinks, you know what? What if we can use this to our advantage, and this is a distraction while we rob his house? So Miles thinks that's probably the better option. So they're going to do a combination of the two, but ultimately they're going to be searching the house. And for the game purposes of this mission is called Highwaymen. It is not actually a solo mission, but I'll be using solo rules with it. And there are solo rules available in the book that they're just for regular missions as well, which is what this is going to be. So technically it is Miles and company versus the Pumpkin Gang. And where's their shooter? There's their shooter right there. And they are going to be trying to loot this house. But meanwhile, this old man is not helpless. He is going to be slinging magic and, in general, just messing everybody up, because he has not survived this long without being quite potent. And by the way, nobody ages in the Brutal Realm, so he must have been taken here. Either he just looks very elderly, or he was taken here as an old man already, because he's looking pretty frail and gross. So let's get this battle underway. The Pumpkin Gang is going to be using the faction trait gadgets, and because they've got some technology and things like that. And we have a flamethrower here. If you take a look at this model, the flamethrower here, the way I like to depict flamethrowers is I make him a pistol and I give him an extra weapon as well. So he is going to have 3 shots at 6 inches, and he's going to have, 2 shots at 10, but they all reroll to hit. And of course I'll be using the flame wound chart. We also have the Pumpkin King right here, who is the leader, if I can get him into focus, and he is a support. Then we also have this woman here, the swordswoman, and she is going to be a berserker. And then we have a basic ranged. You can't really see it, but he has a rifle, so he's not playing around. Let's get this mission underway. On the first turn, we have rolled on the random event table for solo games, and it said place a marker 6 inches from one of our models, from any of our models, and that is worth 4 gold if we get it. It's not a regular objective for experience or victory points, but it is for gold. And we could definitely use that. Miles and Lancer are back here. There's Dunch, and there's Gil and Reich. So the very first activation goes to the Pumpkin King. He moves into that garden there, and he successfully cast Time Slip on himself, and he is going to teleport her 8 inches and get her into better position. Gil moves up and charges the wizard, and unfortunately does nothing. Alright, the next 2 activations, the Sword Lady runs up there and she successfully loots the house, scoring them 2 victory points. And then Reich moves and runs all the way over here. He's aiming to be a threat to this rifleman who is going to be harassing us all game. The next person to activate is this flamethrower guy. He gets up there in the wizard's face and flames him. Now, all of his attacks will be re-rolling to hit because he's a pistolier and he's got a 6-inch weapon. So, and he rolls a 10 and a 9. So that's 2 more victory points for his team and 2 hit points out of 5 off of the wizard. So now their team is leading 4 to nothing, which is a pretty huge lead. In the meantime, Miles activates. He moves up from behind that tree into these ruins. He casts Time Slip on Gil, and he gets it off, but he gets it off critically, so they both get a Time Slip. Then he uses that blue energy in his hand to produce a line of sight blocking barrier to prevent this guy from being able to shoot them. So see, anytime his line of sight crosses that barrier, he can't see past it. So that is the end of those 2 activations. This ranged guy moves from one window to the next and fires down on poor Reich. He deals 2 unsaved wounds, unfortunately, and blinded and agony for poor Reich. So he really tore Reich up. Next up to activate, we've got Dunch. He moves out and he takes a very narrow pot shot at this orange guy. And even despite having the extra cover from the blocking barrier and all of that, he is able to do 2 wounds on this guy, as well as a fracture, which is -2 movement, and broken ribs, which is -2 dexterity. So now he's really hurting. The Pumpkin Gang is all out of activation, so we get to activate a second time. There's Lancer. She moves into the building, and she can just see this Necromancer, this wizard in his back. So she's going to roll 2 shots, and they're re-rollable, 9s and 10s. I got a 9, and I got a 5, unfortunately. But we do get a hit point off this guy, and she does get a victory point. So that's exciting. So we're finally on the board with 1 to 4, and we need to start upping our game here. Okay, at the end of each turn, the merchant activates. He is not messing around, so each player rolls 3d10 and consult the chart to see exactly what happens. So, he turns over here, and he casts lightning out of his fingers, dealing 2 wounds with no saves, 2 damage with no saves onto this flamer. Then, he does another damage with saves, and he does not save it. So he completely murdered this pumpkin guy immediately, just incinerated him. And then we are going to apply the 4 to her, and he is going to move her any direction 8 inches, and she is now back here. Now, what we rolled for our team is this: a 7, 3, and a 10. The 3 happens to be a nothing, and the 7 is a pause token and a damage with saves. He does actually pass that, but unfortunately the 10 is 2 wounds with no saves at all, so he has got a pause token and he is down to 1 hit point. So he also put a pretty bad hurting on him as well. They win the roll-off, and their first action is her to move, use a free action to run, and then loot that again. The score is now 6-2. We're trailing pretty badly here. Now, I forgot to mention that at the beginning of the turn we rolled on the solo event table, and now the winds have picked up really hard in this place. The wind is blowing in gusts and squalls and everything, so the ranged attacks are going to be getting -2 to their hit rolls, because it's really hard to aim with all the debris flowing about and whatnot. Okay, our first action is Lancer running up to the side of the building and looting it, and she does get it for 2 experience and 2 victory points, putting it 6-4 now. Their next activation, this guy aims and shoots down at Reich. He gets 2 different hits on him, but thank God, or thank Ishtar I should say, Reich critically saves the 2, and the 6 is a miss, but the 1 is a critical, So he saves both of the shots, which is awesome, because I was certain he was dead. Speaking of Reich, our next activation is Reich, and he loses his blindness token because he just moves this turn. He just has it for one turn. So he cannot do anything in the combat phase, but he does move, and he passes his willpower to get rid of his agony token. So he's actually in pretty good position to take this guy down next turn. Knowing what we were planning next, the Pumpkin King runs out of the garden. He tries to apply a time slip to himself and fails, and then he tries to teleport this guy away from Reich and critically fails, losing a hit point. So that's pretty darn hilarious. Okay, before we activate Miles and possibly getting rid of that time slip on Gil, Gil is going to activate, and he is going to try to get rid of his paws. Gil's dexterity is just 5, so I need to roll 1 through 5. Where's that dice? I failed it. So normally he would not be able to do anything, but I'm going to use my time slip right here, and I'm going to make that auto pass. So he is no longer paused by the wizard's magic, and now he's going to charge into him. Let's just see that roll. A 9, good. He moves in, and now we just need 3 attacks, because he would normally get 3 attacks, and I need 9s and 10s. There's a 9. Well, we got 1 more victory point, 1 more experience, and 1 more hit point off of the wizard. The wizard's down to 1 now, so that's not too shabby. Our next activation, because they're out of models, we're going to use the free action. We're going to move over to this gold objective. We're going to use the free action to activate that. And then he fires twice at the poor wizard. He needs 10s or 9s. He got a 6, and he got a 10. So he actually kills the wizard, removing a hit point from him, and the wizard is finally dead, which we, for the sake of this mission, will assume that he slept somewhere else besides this house. Otherwise, that's kind of awkward, because he'll wake back up in that house. But the good news is it's a lot of victory points for Dunch, and a lot of experience. So he will be getting 1 experience and victory point for removing a hit point from the wizard, and then 2 more for actually dealing the killing blow. So that puts us at 8-6 right now. That really knocks us up way over the competition, which I'm totally fine with, because we were dragging there. Miles is the final model to activate. He moves up and tries to put another time slip on old Gil, and his technology backfires and deals him a damage with no saves, unfortunately, but he was still able to get his barrier up that blocks line of sight, so it is still protecting them from this shooter. And that is the end of turn 2. I can't believe the merchant actually, the wizard died that quickly, but he did, so now the rest is just a bloodbath. So at the top of turn 3, we are score 8-6 in our favor. So first off, they will get to activate first because they have lost more models than our team. So knowing that he is in grave danger, the pumpkin sniper moves down and he fires shots into Reich. But before he does that, he uses one of their feats because their faction trait is gadgets. And once per game, he can give a confusion and a pause token to somebody. So I'm assuming he throws down like a flashbang or something and confuses Reich and pauses him. So he's going to be hard to activate this turn. He's got several skill checks to take. He then, he couldn't aim because he moved, but he does reroll to hit because of his elevation. He shot twice, and he hit 3 times because one of them was a critical after rerolling. And unfortunately, old Reich did not save any of them. So this team actually wasted these tokens for their feat, but oh well, it was worth it because if he did not kill Reich, then Reich was going to be all up in his grill. For our first activation, we are going to activate Lancer back there. She's going to try and loot the house before the sword person interferes, 2 through 9. And we got a 3, so that's 2 more victory points and 2 more experience for Lancer. And that is going to put us at 10-7. For their next activation, the Pumpkin King is going to cast Time Slip on the Sword Lady. And he's not going to move because he's already pretty well covered, slightly more than 50% by that when it comes to their shooter over there. And he uses their other feat of gadgetry, and he chooses to give himself a protect token this turn, so that's +2 to his save. And then finally, he successfully teleports the ranged guy all the way up here, and the guy potentially could injure himself because it was such a long distance, but actually he saved it. So he's completely up there. He's got a nice vantage point for the entire board, and he's also heavily in cover. So that's going to be a benefit to them, especially being that he's only at 1 hit point. And look at me being sloppy. I rolled for the event table after he just activated, so whoops, I should have done it at the beginning of the turn, but I got excited. I rolled a 10, which is Frenzied on the list, the event table list, and enemy models are going to reroll 9s and 10s for melee hits, which is good. So that's going to actually help them quite a bit for what's about to come. Alright, so our activation, we're going to have to activate Gil. He moves up to the building, and he's got to roll a d10. And, oh my god, what is that? Hold on a second. That is a wound with no saves. Unfortunately, our buddy Gil is dead. That is unfortunate. So that's an insanity for Gil. I think he already has 1 insanity. And that's also a victory point for the other team. So that is... Okay. Well, that makes sense, I guess. Alright, things are swinging quite a bit now. So the sword lady took she looted the building, and as her free action, she charged Lancer, and she killed Lancer. 3 solid hits. Lancer didn't save anything. Lancer does 1 unsaved damage back to her, but Sword Lady is going to take the time slip token and calls that to be a save. So that is 3 victory points this turn for them, and that puts the score at 10-9 in their favor now. So stuff is happening, people. Our next activation sees Dunch almost get to the building in time, but he decides to take aim and try to snipe out their leader. He does 1 damage, and a laceration is all he gets, because the leader already had +2 to his armor save, and then +2 for cover, plus his regular armor save. It was pretty good chances he was going to survive, but 1 still got through, and that was a laceration. And finally, Miles is getting a little uncomfortable with the sword person right there, so he backs up out of this wall, and he successfully casts Time Slip on himself in case he needs to force a save, and then he blocks off these windows with a movement stopping barrier, not a sight stopping barrier. Those are the 2 different versions, so she cannot walk through this barrier now. At the beginning of turn 4, the score is 9-10 in their favor, unfortunately. We've only got 2 guys left. Dunch and Miles are holding down the fort. Miles is already injured, but they are not in great condition either. The Pumpkin King only has 1 hit point left. The Sniper only has 1 hit point left, and the Sword Lady is fully at full health. So that is the situation we're in at the top of the very final turn. Okay, the event table for this turn, I rolled Lucky Find, and we will end up getting some gold. Hold on. We find 2 gold, and that is what the event table says, so I'm going to add that. We now have 6 gold, which is not bad. We've earned 6 gold, or 5 gold just from this mission. So the very first activation is going to be Dunch, and I think he's safe enough with enough hit points that he can move over here and try to activate this objective. So let's see what he gets. 2 through 9. Where is it? Oh shit. Okay, well... Alright, well he is also lost a hit point now with no saves. Boy, that wizard really booby-trapped his house. I guess he's put some enchantments or something like that on it, so I've lost 2 hit points total just from this objective. Alright, well, that's another 2 victory points missed on our part. Well, my friends, it seems like this game is taking a turn for the worse. The sniper here took 2 shots at poor Dunch and hit both of them, and Dunch rolled a 5 and a 7. My save is 3, and Dunch, poor old Dunch, is dead. So that is poor guy. You feel sorry for him. He's a simpleton. But now that puts the score at 11-9. So when our buddy Miles finally activates, he moves and uses a free action to run all the way into here, and then he successfully casts a movement blocking barrier right there and casts Time Slip on himself, and he is just holding up, waiting out the rest of this mission because we have already tried to activate the objective this turn, and he really has no offensive capability, so he's just hunkering down. So the leader Pumpkin King right here tried to move and run over here as a free action. He just could not quite make it to the house. So that's the end of his activation. And finally, the Sword Woman is going to stand against the building and loot 2 through 9, a 7, and that will put them, the final score is they win. And that will be 13-9 they beat us by. So that is unfortunately, the case, but this guy's only got 1 hit point left, this guy's only got 1 hit point left. I mean, things have definitely happened, so I'm okay with this. Unfortunately, Miles and company, I told you in the very beginning, he's very kind of not effective. He's not super potent, I guess you'd say. He's not good at doing things, and unfortunately his track record now for this campaign is 1 tie and 1 loss. That is unfortunate, but at least he will get 2 victory points for surviving, being that he's the leader. So, 2 experience, not a victory points. So, that is the end of this game. Now we go into the home phase. Okay, at the end of this mission, I'm going to have to do this by memory. I don't think Dunch got any victory points. Either way, he's at 3 and he didn't level up. Gil did not score any victory points. He was already at 4. Reich, or actually one of them. Gil, I think, did just level up, and he's a fighting skill 7 now. So he went from 3 to 4. He got 1 victory point. And Reich got nothing. Lancer leveled up twice, so now she has the passive ability Connections, so she can hopefully call on a merchant whenever we want one. Now that we have a bunch of gold, and her dex is improved. And now the Miles has finally leveled up to be an upgraded model. So he's 1.5 points now. And I chose Fanatic for him. So every time one of his powers goes off, it's considered a success. And if it does not go off, it's critically not a success. So I figured, you know what? He's a mess up. He's going to start doubling down on himself. And he's going to go, you know what? I am going to try harder, even if it kills me. And that's exactly what it may do. I think I said earlier that Dunch did not level up, but he actually did. So his scavenging on a 6-up, we get an extra gold, and we get a 6. So that is a 7th gold. And Gil is going to try to talk some insanity out of Lancer, because she has 1 insanity. So unfortunately, Gil can't talk himself out of it, but he's going to act as counselor to Lancer, go, hey, look, this was a fluke, you're not going to die again, blah, blah, blah. And his is on an 8-up. 6. Unfortunately, he's not able to talk her out of it. The Vanguard ability does nothing. Let's do, before we do Connections to see if we see a merchant, let's do Chemistry on an 8-up. And did not get it for poor old Miles. He's just not very good. And finally, do we have Connections through Lancer with a merchant? A 9. Actually, we do get it. So we have a chance to buy something from the merchant. That's actually pretty exciting. And we're going to have 7 gold to do that with. So let me take a look at the merchant list and I'll tell you what I buy. Okay, after Lancer contacted a merchant, we decided to buy a map for 2 gold. And that's going to allow us to choose exactly what happens on the exploration chart. And then we also bought for 5 gold some Psych Out, which is a 1-use drug. We're going to give it to Reich. And whenever he chooses to use it as a free action, he gets 2 Time Slip tokens that don't go away that entire game until he uses them. So that's actually pretty darn good. Normally they go away, if it's cast or whatever, it goes away eventually, but these will stay. So he's going to be all hopped up on Psych Out. So we chose on the exploration chart, because of the map we have, we're now down to $0. because of the map we have, we chose a better item. So we're going to roll 2d6 on the item chart and add +3. So Alright, well, I rolled a 3 + 3, and that's a soul gem. That's worth 3 gold, it's 1 use. I can remove 1 insanity point from a model while in the home phase. Well, you know what? That's actually not too bad. I'm going to go ahead and use it right now and take 1 of the insanity off of poor Gil, leaving him at only 1 insanity. So he takes that soul gem, and now he's only at 1 insanity. Okay, well that was pretty effective, so we are going to wrap this up. Thanks for watching. Sorry it ran a little long, and we'll see you next time.